Hey there, Postal here. Doesn't this plane look like a Hot Wheels car from when you were 8? It does. Well, from when I was 8. It's just got like a fun paint scheme on it. Today we're taking out the F4F. This is a Tier 5 American multi-role fighter. I really actually quite like this fighter. I didn't have it back for a while. I actually just bought it back. I'll say recently, but when this paint scheme became available, when they had those paint missions many months ago, I bought it back, slapped the paint on it, and haven't really flown it since. I think I've got a 2-point pilot on here. But I have a buy request, so I'm flying it. And I've wanted to make a video on this anyway, so I'm glad that it was requested. It gives me an even bigger excuse to actually play it. What is this plane? Well, this is the Tier 5 American multi-role plane. This fighter is on the Corsair line. There's 2 American multi-role lines. This is on the more maneuverable line, and you can tell right out of the gate that it is the more maneuverable line, because this plane is very maneuverable. In fact, it's right there with the Yak and the Hurricane 2 at Tier 5 for maneuverability. So you must be saying to yourself, wow. Alright, well that's pretty cool. It's very different than those 2 planes though, because it's almost as fast as an FW-190. And that's pretty significant, right? Usually a plane set up in World of Warplanes is going to be, strong in one category, weak in another category. But this is strong in both maneuverability and in airspeed. Well, then what the heck is it weak in? Well, may or may not have noticed that these guns are pretty darn weak. For Tier 5, they're actually not bad at all, in my humble opinion. Let's not go up and over. I do not have the airspeed to go up and over. So we'll go sideways. It's weaker than the other guns. I mean, obviously it's not for his 20mm Hispanos like the Hurricane has. It is not a hub-mounted blap cannon like the Yak 7 has. It is not 2 20mm cannons and all kinds of fun stuff that the FW-190 has. But 6 50mm, excuse me, 50mm, you wish, 50 caliber machine guns is still pretty significant. And so yeah, this has really good airspeed for its tier. This is really good maneuverability. But it's balanced out by quote-unquote poor guns. I don't really think they're poor. They take a long time. They do. Don't get me wrong. A full health GA like that bad boy is definitely going to take a long time. What I'm actually more worried about right now is this guy. This plane, oh man, it's Zap. I didn't realize Zap was on the enemy team. This I-1629 is really maneuverable. Certainly more maneuverable than I am. Alright. Let's go ahead and use our rockets here, shall we? Oh, I didn't need all 3 of them. That's okay. Go ahead and not crash into this guy. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to toss all 3 rockets out just because I want to get them reloaded. It'll help us also get that dealio. I can go up and over this time because I've got enough airspeed and I'm low enough to the ground where I won't stall out. Let's go ahead and put these guns to use. Now see, we can see that they're definitely taking us swell of a long time, but they do get the job done. And yeah, they're best at taking on light fighters, multi-roles, heavy fighters to a lesser extent, GAs definitely, bombers definitely to a lesser extent. Oh, that guy's way the heck over there. I thought he was closer. Oh, this is the guy I saw on the map. Let's go ahead and start angling up. I've got altitude performance and airspeed over that I-1629. I do like that plane. It's Tier 4 instead of Tier 5. P-43 is my American Tier 5 counterpart. That plane has a little better altitude performance and a little better speed, I believe. This guy right here, yeah, needs to be cared for. Let's go ahead and let's turn back around on him if I can. Let's use our airspeed. I should have significantly better airspeed. Then again, I'm not specialized. Keep in mind, I am definitely going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to maneuverability and all that shenanigans. Oh, I thought I killed him. Oh well. Let me put that in the main chat. Alright, so where do we want to spawn? I guess we're gonna spawn here. Let's see, we are up 4 sectors to 1. I definitely want to still defend the center here. Which I didn't have my rockets up in time. Oh, here's that P-43 I was chasing down. I've caught up to him. That's one way to catch up to him. So yeah, with this plane, because of its maneuverability, typically better maneuverability than multi-rolls. I-16 is an anomaly. I mean, it leads to the Yak 5, so I guess you should expect good maneuverability. But you want to set yourself up for success by determining what's the best course of action. If you're going against a light fighter, well, you probably want to use your airspeed. Actually, when you're going against a light fighter, you want to kind of pay attention to him. Like that light fighter I'll go after because he's got less than half health, and my guns can take that out. That's kind of what you want to do versus light fighters, since you can't out dogfight them. And typically your airspeed isn't that much better than them. It would just be best to avoid them until they're at a point of weakness. Versus heavy fighters, like this heavy fighter that's above me, typically I just kind of pay attention to them on the map. Whether they can outspeed me, and they can always out-hit me. If you're paying attention to the map, you're going to be able to counter them just because you've got, you know, the upper hand of attention. Yeah, an ME410 is going to be a pain in the butt, but you know what? You can outmaneuver that. Paying attention to them on the inbound, and then turning at an appropriate time, not too soon, not too late, and you'll do fine. Hopefully I don't get bomb dropped here. There we go. Yep, we got Zap again.
Great job today. We'll be
it's a
waiting
quick
for
battle.
you back home.
But kind of let you see what this plane can do. Let's head on back. So this is a very quick battle, but I've only got a very quick amount of time. But it does show you what this plane can do. It is definitely on the dogfightier end of the multi-rolls in the game, but you want to take advantage of those rockets. You're in a multi-roll, so utilize and take advantage of that. I only had to use them a couple times to help flip that mining facility, but I can tell you, with a 90-second reload on these rockets, and if you need them to flip a sector, there's nothing better than having a handful of rockets or a couple bombs to be able to flip a sector. I don't know how many times you've been out in your P40 and you go to take a command center and you need just a sliver of more capture points, and you can't do it because you're in a fighter, or even some of the heavy fighters that don't have bombs or rockets. So it's very nice to be in a multi-role that for the most part, besides mining facilities, you can capture every sector on your own. Yeah, so 12,000 personal points, nothing like spectacular, but an overall good battle, right? We were able to mitigate and completely cancel out MP Zap here, who's a really good pilot. If you ever run into him, always puts up a good fight. Again, I was just that came down to me paying attention to the map. And even though he killed me once, I was able to get the jump on him more often than not. So let's take a quick look at how I've got this plane set up, and why I have it set up, and what I plan to do on it once I've specialized this plane. So again, keep in mind I've got a 2-point pilot. I don't know why the heck I put Aerodynamics Expert on here. Really, for your first universal skills, if you're not specialized, Aerodynamics Expert is kind of a waste. But hey, it is what it is. I've already done that. You don't really need Marksman 1 either. My suggestion would either be Engine Guru 1 or possibly Aerobatics Expert. This plane is very maneuverable, and we're going to compare it to the other planes in just a second. I'll show you that. Aerodynamics Expert is going to be more helpful once you've specialized the plane and you've got 2 slots on here. But as far as like your first 6 pilot points would be concerned, it would be either aerobatics expert or engine guru. 6 of one, half dozen of another, in my opinion. Whichever one you choose first, choose the other one second. Then get marksman 1, just to help get your guns on target. But you got 6 of these 50 cal machine guns. You know, marksman's not desperately necessary at tier 5 because you're just kind of spraying enough crap at the wall, and eventually you're going to get something to stick. After that, after your 6 points, if you've specialized it, okay, aerodynamics expert, certainly not a bad thing to have there. And then from there, it's up to you what you go with. But that would be my recommendation for your first 8. If you've specialized it, that's when aerodynamics expert's actually relevant. As far as equipment is concerned, because you're in a multi-role fighter, I recommend first aid dressing. This plane does not catch on fire very often at all. So fire extinguisher is not a necessity, nor is firefighter skill or the fire extinguisher skill for the pilot. First aid dressing is definitely the way to go. I use pneumatic control assist because sometimes you will get yourself stuck in situations that you're like, whoopsie, and you want to make sure that you can get out of it. If you can, pneumatic control assist can help in that situation. Once I've specialized this plane, I'm definitely going to be putting the engine cooling consumable on here to help get that additional speed. You are in a multi-role that has, I forget the amount of boost, 10 seconds, so an additional 10 seconds is always a nice thing. Universal ammunition, always. I mean, if you've got a bunch of gold ammo lying around, I suppose you could use the incendiary ammunition, but it's not a necessity by any means. And then I will definitely be, once I specialize it, I will be putting the, whatever the heck the consumable is that increases the damage output of your bombs and rockets. I forget what it's called. I'm sure you can tell me in the comments. As far as the equipment is concerned, you're in a tier 5 frickin' multi-role fighter. There's no point to cockpit armor. Get the sight. That's what you want. Thank you very much. We'll move on. For the airframe, the argument could be made here if you're not specialized, like me. You could either have lightweight wing frame or polished skin. You're pretty speedy. You're pretty maneuverable. So either one of those could conceivably be helpful. I've gone with lightweight wing frame because I am more of a dogfight type pilot. And the bombs and rockets on this plane are not overwhelmingly strong. They're solid, but they're not like super strong. So for me, I assume I'm going to be in more dogfights than ground attacks, and so that's why I went with the lightweight wing frame. If you go with polished skin, keep in mind that you will be taking away your aircraft's maneuverability, which isn't necessarily the end of the world, considering you've got so much good maneuverability. But for me personally, I've gone with lightweight wing frame because it doesn't impact my overall speed. It takes away my hit points, but I'll deal with that. Once I specialize, I'm going to put Engine Guru on. Not Engine Guru, excuse me. What the heck is it called? Uprated Engine, thank you. On here to increase the overall speed of the plane, and then I'll be, maximizing the 2 strengths of this particular plane. And on outboard weapons, so the great thing about the rockets on this plane is the outboard weapons can basically be whatever you want. Do you want a faster reload? You've got 90 seconds, which is about average for this tier, which we'll go over in just a second. But if you want it to be faster, then fine, have a faster reload. That is a viable option. Do you want them to have a less impact on the overall airspeed of the plane, which will give a longer reload? That's fine. Go ahead and do that if you want to have a little bit more speed. So you've got a lot of flexibility when it comes to your outboard weapon once you've specialized this plane. So now we've gone over the pilots and the equipment. Let's go ahead and let's actually compare this plane to its colleagues at Tier 5. I've got it here compared to the Yak, to the FW-190, and to the Hurricane. If we take a look, there's also going to be the XP-44 that we could compare it to. And I'll make a brief mention of that plane. The XP-44, as I mentioned in the game, is going to have a higher airspeed, much worse maneuverability. The bombs and rockets, I think it's actually got the same freaking setup at Tier 5. Oh no, it's got 2 500-pound bombs. My apologies. So that's actually a little bit more flexible than the rockets, in my opinion. You've got the same gun setup, though. So with these same mediocre guns, they're not terrible at Tier 5. Again, I keep calling them mediocre. They're mediocre for Tier 8. At Tier 5, it's not actually that bad at all, in my opinion. But the XP-44 goes all in on speed. We're talking about the F4F being relatively fast, and it is. The XP-44 is just faster than every other multi-role at Tier 5, so do keep that in mind when we're doing this comparison. So we're going to start off comparing it to the Yak 7, which I have. And, you know, the maneuverability on the F4F is actually slightly better. The actual turn time is probably a little bit better for the Yak. Oh, no, it's actually just barely better for the F4F. So really, the Yak 7 is known as a maneuverable multi-role fighter. And the F4F is technically slightly more maneuverable, so keep that in mind. The F4F is definitely a very maneuverable Tier 5 multi-role fighter. Look at the airspeed. You've got a decent amount more airspeed on the on the F4F, and a decent, a little bit more altitude performance. Where the F4F definitely separates itself is the bombs and rockets do twice as much damage. Yes, you heard me right. Actually, more than twice as much damage. I think it's 2,700 for the X7, 6,000 for the F4F. And this plane here has a hub-mounted cannon, which is relatively long range, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's almost 3,000 feet. And then two 50 cal machine guns, whereas you have just 6 50 cal machine guns on the F4F. There's strengths and there was weaknesses to both of those, but just be aware of that. The Hurricane 2, another very maneuverable, known for its maneuverability, multi-role fighter, and the F4F is actually going to be more maneuverable than this plane. Now keep in mind, I've got a 2-point pilot on my Hurricane, and I have not upgraded my wing frame to advanced, or whatever the heck it's called. Oh, improved on the equipment. But still, you can see that the F4F is going to have give the Hurricane 2 a run for its money as far as maneuverability is concerned. The airspeed is going to be a little bit higher on the F4F, just like it was on the Yak. The altitude performance is basically the same. The big difference between these two planes is the Hurricane has only 4 rockets compared to the 6 of the F4F. And the Hurricane has those 20mm cannons that are so freaking awesome. That overheat very quickly, but hit very, very hard. And so you've just got kind of a different flavor in the F4F. Definitely better guns on the Hurricane. But the overall package of the F4F is nothing to scoff at. And that little bit of airspeed is definitely noticeable. The Hurricane 2 and the Tornado, for that matter, are something that, as I've been grinding on the EU server, I remember, have been forced to remember just how slow these British multi-rolls are at the mid to low tiers. Oh my goodness. I don't have that feeling in the F4F. Alright, so now we've talked about the maneuverable planes that the F4F compares to. Let's compare it to the FW190. Relatively fast, or at least known for its speed, multi-role fighter. The F4F isn't all that much slower than it. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit slower, but it's not so much to where you're you know, just completely blown away by it. The FW190, you will notice if you fly it, is definitely, it feels faster than the F4F, but the F4F doesn't feel slow. And so I want you to be aware of that. You would think that, okay, if the F4F is maneuverable like a Yak and a Hurricane, well, it's going to feel as slow as the Yak and a Hurricane, and it doesn't. It's not a rocket by any means, but it is not slow. And so take advantage of that flexibility that you have in the F4F. You can, more than any other Tier 5 multi-role, you can kind of put yourself in a position all the time to come out on top in an engagement. As long as you're not sticking yourself against, you know, 3 or more planes, this plane has the flexibility to maneuver when it needs to. It has the flexibility to speed when it needs to. It has the flexibility to hit the ground when it needs to, and you know, it has the flexibility to burn enemy fighters down. And so do keep in mind, this plane's guns are not meant to kill ground targets. I have used them from time to time to knock out a very soft targets like tents and things of that nature. When they're almost down anyway, do not start shooting at tents when they're brand new, because you will still take too long. These guns are not built for that. These guns are built for burning down enemy fighters, burning down enemy multi-rolls, and slowly chipping away at heavy fighters and higher health pooled planes. But you've got that flexibility, so use your flexibility. Pay attention. Don't go dogfighting right away. You want to attack light fighters when they're on kind of low health, or when they're engaged against another enemy. so that way you're able to kill them in that kind of situation and use your maneuverability to stick with them just long enough to kill them. Do not use your maneuverability to straight up dogfight against a light fighter because you will regret it. You can use your maneuverability to dogfight against other tier 5 multi-rolls as long as you feel comfortable in the position that you've put yourself, because you should be able to come out on top of that. When you're going against heavy fighters, you're going to want to actually use your maneuverability to, as long as you're paying attention to the map, to maneuver out of the way as they come in and attack you, and use your speed to stick with them or try to catch up with them. Use your speed to get from zone to zone, and use your rockets. So I really like the flexibility of this plane, and I haven't even mentioned this plane actually goes to a really, really good tech line. It's the tier 5 on the Corsair line. I've kept all the Corsairs. The F2G, even at tier 8, where there's a lot of jets in the game, and this is still a prop plane, is still a really, really good plane. And then you get the plane everybody loves at tier 9, and that is going to be the F94D. So that's this line. This plane here eventually goes to this plane here. And then you end up at the F7U at tier 10, which is a plane that I posted a video on about a week ago, I guess. So yeah, the F4F leads to these great Corsairs. Unfortunately, it doesn't lead to like an F6F or an 8F at this time. Maybe sometime in the future, Wargaming will be nice enough to add that to the setup. But I mean, the F2G has 8 rockets and this huge bomb. It's just, again, this is a very maneuverable, flexible, and can do all multi-roll line, and I love that with my multi-rolls. This plane is setting you up for success on this line. So yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this assessment of the F4F. This is a plane I haven't played in a long time. Do you happen to have the F4F? Do you agree with my assessment on it? Do you want to add anything to that? Please put it down in the comments below. I really can't wait to specialize this plane because then it'll give me even more speed and build up my pilot to a nice solid 8-point pilot, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.